Until the age of 70, Abraham lived in his native land of Chaldea with his family. He was promised an inheritance, and he never left until he heard the voice of the Lord tell him to leave with his family. Abraham and his family left the city of Ur and traveled 300 miles north in Haran, where he lived for 15 years. After hearing the voice of the Lord again, his journey continued with his family. Not knowing the journey ahead of him, he simply went. During this journey, he received the promise from God saying he would be a great nation. A land burned down. Abraham met many different people in his journey, including kings, leaders, and people of different faith. One pivotal moment came when Abraham interceded with God on behalf of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, pleading for their salvation. Through his compassion, he demonstrated the power of empathy. Still, God rained fire from heaven over the city and burned it completely down because of their sexual immorality. He rescued Abraham's family and a few righteous alongside him. Abraham continued his journey. The promised son. Sarah, at 75 years old, impulsively told Abraham to take Hagar as his concubine to have a child, and she would call the child her own. From this, Abraham agreed, and Ishmael was born. But was this the promise that God made with Abraham, stating he would be the father of many nations? No. God wanted Sarah to bring forth this promise, even in her older age. So years later, Sarai being 90 years old, God delivered the promise again, telling Abraham that he and Sarah's son would be named Isaac. He would be the son of promise and covenant. Abraham was 100 years old and Isaac was born. It was from Abraham's seed through Sarah that he would be the father of many nations. The sacrifice. Isaac brought Abraham and Sarah immense joy and solidified God's covenant with Abraham's descendants. Yet, even in their happiness, they encountered new tests of faith, including the heart-wrenching command to sacrifice Isaac. One day, God called upon Abraham in a vision. "Abraham." The voice said, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. Offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will show you." With the heavy heart but unwavering faith, Abraham rose early the next morning. He saddled his donkey and, accompanied by Isaac and a few servants, journeyed to the designated mountain. The journey was marked by solemn anticipation, as Abraham knew he was being tested in a way unlike any other. This test was bigger than all of the previous tests Abraham ever had. Upon reaching the mountain, Abraham and Isaac began to prepare for the sacrifice. As they built the altar and gathered the wood, Isaac questioned his father, "Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" Abraham replied, his voice full of trust, "God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." As the altar was prepared and Isaac was bound and placed upon it, Abraham raised the knife, ready to carry out the unimaginable act. But just as the blade was about to descend, an angel of the Lord called out, "Abraham, Abraham." Abraham stopped, and the angel continued, "Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." In the thicket nearby, a ram caught by its horns became a substitute sacrifice, a provision from God himself. Abraham's faith and willingness to obey had been fully demonstrated, and God's mercy prevailed. Reflection. Tears of relief and gratitude flowed as Abraham untied his son and they embraced. The Lord reaffirmed his covenant with Abraham, promising countless descendants and blessings beyond measure. Abraham's willingness to obey, though ultimately spared from carrying out the act, showcased his unwavering devotion. Let Abraham's story be a blessing to us all, that no matter how far he tells us to go, he will always provide. No matter what journey you are on, let God be lifted up.